Well, fuel prices have gone lower, the rand has strengthened and inflation has dropped, but it still feels like prices of essential food items remain high in the country. The Competition Commission says although input prices have dropped over the past months, end consumers are still being charged high rates. The latest essential food price monitoring report found that easing cost pressures had been slow to translate into lower food prices in several essential food value chains. We're now joined by the Competition Commission's principal economist, Khalirendwe Ranenyeni. Khalirendwe, looking at the recent inflation number that's now come out, a lot of South Africans are hearing all these positive news. Fuel prices have been cut. We're not dealing with load shedding in terms of input pricing. Why is it when we go to the shopping aisles, we don't feel as good?
Thank you, Mateo. Thank you very much for having me on the show. This is exactly the observations that we made as the Competition Commission. After seeing a lot of the cost pressures easing, but we still don't see that food prices being reduced. You will recall 6 or so months ago, if you spoke to producers and sellers of essential food products and you asked them why are food prices so high, the answer to that question would have been, we have load shedding, the rand is weak, the fuel prices are high. But to our surprise, all of that is now coming down, but the food prices still remain high. So we're quite concerned about that observation and that finding, and we are looking into understanding exactly what are the main drivers of food prices.
Please take us through the monitoring process then from the Competition Commission. Which essential food items are you looking at? And just through the value chains, are you talking to retailers, farmers, and where the prices are going?
Sure. So in terms of our monitoring efforts, we monitor the prices of eggs, we monitor the prices of maize meal, brown bread, frozen chicken, tin fish, and sunflower cooking oil. So this is the essential food basket that we monitor. And what we do is that we look at the prices across the value chain. And by that, I mean, we look at how much the commodity is. So if we look at wheat, for example, we check how much the commodity was, how much was wheat trading for. We then look at how much the processor of bread, in this case, in the case of wheat, is charging the retailer. Then we look at how much the retailer is charging the consumers, or the price that you and I see on the shelf. So essentially what we're doing is we're looking at the margins or the spread of margins between the different levels of the value chain, from the farmer all the way to what you and I see on the shelf.
And have you had an opportunity to speak with the country's major retailers, especially looking at the way the price of eggs has gone up because, of course, of the bird flu that happened late last year, but also what happened this year in terms of the black frost that affected potato prices? Do retailers then give you the reason why it's so hard for them to cut prices when things are good in the economy, when things are good with the fuel price and the rand is strengthened?
So in terms of the research that we provide through our essential monitoring report, this we use publicly available data from Stats SA. And what happens after that is we then initiate complaints and we start investigating. And that's when retailers and food processors then have an opportunity to come through and explain to us, give us their financials so that we have a look to see what other costs are they incurring that justifies the high prices. But at this point, this is still research, and its basis is on Stats SA data, which is publicly available information.
Now, Khalirendwe, according to the October 2024 Household Affordability Index, the cost of an average household food basket in October was around 5,348, up 92 rand. Things like that don't give much confidence to consumers and households who are stretched because, of course, their incomes have been battered by inflation. Are there any recommendations the Commission can make to the tribunal and other authorities to have a look in with retailers and players in the value chain so that consumers are not under so much pressure?
You're very right, Matteo. In fact, one of the observations of this report has been that South Africans are really facing a food insecurity issue. We have this basket which is monitored or which is tracked by the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice Group. And if you look at the rate of change of the minimum wage, for example, of which many South Africans earn, that hasn't matched up the increase in food prices that we are tracking here. So most of us are living in a deficit, and very soon food insecurity is going to be a real thing in South Africa. So what we are calling for through our advocacy work and through this report and this kind of research is for more increased transparency on margins for stakeholders around the value chains. Of course, we've identified this rocket and feather problem, which is we're finding that retailers and processors are not translating savings to consumers. And what we are intending to do is we are intending to investigate this. And if we find that any of these high prices are as a result of anti-competitive conduct on the part of food processors and on the part of retailers, we're definitely going to be litigating those, and they will have to face the consequences of such actions.
Yeah, I mean, in March, food inflation was down by about 5%, if my memory serves me well. So surely prices should follow suit in the next few months. And it's October now, and South African consumers will tell you that, look, it's easy when the prices are skyrocket, but when they're supposed to come down, they come as slowly as a feather. So are you looking into things like bread, the essentials, staples that South Africans consume, to see how there could be some price gauging there when it comes to the food prices we find in the shopping aisles?
Indeed. In fact, that is exactly the concern that we have, right? And it could be a demonstrative of anti-competitive conduct, because if you are quick to raise prices when costs increase, but very slow to decrease prices when costs decrease, it could be a reflection that you don't face any competition, or a reflection of some other anti-competitive effect that is there, or a reflection of other costs that you may be facing that we're not aware of. So if you look into bread, for example, Matteo, what we observed over the past 6 months is we saw the price of wheat coming down, but we don't observe bread processors reducing the price of bread, which is a concern, because if the wheat comes down, which we understand to be the majority of the cost in the production of bread, then what we anticipate is that that price of bread should go down and therefore should also be translated to the retailer. The same is true for cooking oil. What we're observing in cooking oil is the exact opposite. So whilst the cooking oil processors have reduced prices, retailers have not transmitted that price reduction to consumers. So we're seeing different kinds of behaviors for the different products, but essentially the concern remains that when costs are high, actors are quick to increase the prices, but they are very slow to respond to cost decreases.
All right, that was Khalirendwe Ranenyeni, the Competition Commission's principal economist, talking to us there about the higher prices that we still feel as consumers.